Okay. Sorry, you can go.
Okay, can I start?
Yeah.
Yes. Wait, hold on. Is Joel back?
No, waiting on Wen Hao.
Yeah.
And
Go. It's
Wen Hao.
okay.
is Joel
Joel?
even alive these days?
Nope.
Did he fall
You
asleep?
feel like he ever was.
Someone at
What?
Mom's bedroom.
Eh, lemao.
Wow.
Remember
have
horrible-
that night.
I have horrible memories.
Reporter.
Then lost. Wrong spelling.
You also have no one to blame but yourself.
Wait, did someone just come on? What the fuck? Oh lol.
Oh,
Okay.
lol.
Okay, can I start yet? Wen Hao? Jesus.
Yeah. Go.
Okay,
Is he back?
great.
Oh, he's back. Okay,
So,
let's go.
the thing that's at the heart of all utilitarian ethics is basically the idea that consequences matter, and there are no rules
Wait,
that
pause.
we should
Who's
follow.
scribing?
I'm
Nobody's
streaming.
fucking scribing. This is all going on stream. Jesus.
Oh, it's on stream?
Can you all
Oh,
not pause me so much? Like,
Sorry.
very disorienting.
Oh fuck.
Okay, so as I was saying, the thing that's at the heart of all utilitarian ethics is that consequences matter, and the only rule that we should follow really is the rule that we should maximize pleasure and minimize pain, because that is what the definition of utility is, and that is what the definition of a good consequence is. A good consequence is whatever consequence enables for the maximization of pleasure and the minimization of pain. The problem is there are a number of ways by which we can execute utilitarianism, and there are a number of very, very obvious critiques to utilitarianism that some of these schools might help you answer. Okay, so the 5 schools of utilitarianism are as follows. Actually, there may be more than them, but like these more or less cover everything. So the first is act utilitarianism. I'm gonna write that down actually. So you've got act utilitarianism, then you've got rule utilitarianism, then you've got preference utilitarianism, you've got priority of avoidance of pain,
What avoidance of pain?
and then
Priority,
finally you've got this absolute load of wank called intrinsic attitudinal hedonism.
I was waiting for semiconductors, but okay.
You're talking
Okay.
about that.
So let's go into these one by one. So act utilitarianism, like you can open up the Wikipedia page of this as a mix, and like everything is more or less there. It states that like a person's act is like good if at that point in time that person derives the maximum amount. Okay, so basically the whole shtick of act utilitarianism is that every single action that you perform at any point in time must be whatever maximizes pleasure and minimizes pain at that exact point in time. Okay, and the time thing is important because the time thing basically differentiates act utilitarianism from more or less everything else. It says that it doesn't. Act utilitarianism is basically an argument that says we do not have moral obligations in the future. What?
Oh my god,
It's
oh.
not what to do.
Right. Okay. So as I was saying, the argument of act utilitarianism is that we do not have obligations to our future selves, and we do not have obligations to people in the future. So because we have no obligations to anything but what exists in the present moment, and like there are a whole bunch of reasons for why you might make the argument that like we have no obligation to our future selves. But one of them being the idea that time doesn't exist, the other being the idea that like our future selves don't exist. We cannot hold moral obligations to non-existent things. So yeah, if you're interested in the arguments for like time and why morality does not apply or might apply across time, then we can talk about those at a later date. But for now, basically what you need to do is basically the school of utilitarianism that says your every present moment's action should be whatever maximizes utility. Okay? Pretty straightforward, right? Did everyone understand that?
Yep. Then rule.
Okay, great. Now, rule utilitarianism is the one that often comes in direct contention with act utilitarianism. Okay? So, rule utilitarianism states that we should create a system of rules that will enable us to maximize utility across the long run. Now, do you see how this is different from act utilitarianism? Obviously there's the contention of time now, but rule utilitarians will say that like there are certain instances where committing an action in the present moment will lead to greater pleasure than pain, and therefore this action is morally justified. However, rule utilitarians make a number of arguments. They have a number of contentions with this particular act thing. One contention is that the idea of hold on. Am I breaking up? I'm breaking up, right? My ping just spiked
Yeah.
up. So,
A bit.
okay, is it okay now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, right. So as I was saying, rule utilitarians have a number of contentions with. First of them being, although an action may give us more pleasure than pain in the present moment, in the long run, it will accumulate to more pain than pleasure. And if we take a measure of the sum total of pain versus the sum total of pleasure that will happen as a result of this one action, we should not commit this action if it brings us more pleasure, if it brings us more pain than pleasure. So that's the first thing, right? Act utilitarians will say that the long run actually matters. The second thing, and this is the more interesting thing of utilitarian, is that rule utilitarians will say that whenever we have certain rules, the rules may in individual instances lead to utility loss. So like if we have a rule that says we will never torture terrorists, there may be many instances where like torturing terrorists would actually have given us greater access to utility. But they will say even in these cases, even if we know for a fact that when we torture the terrorist, he will give up the information of the bomb and therefore we should torture him because more pleasure than pain. Or rather like the avoidance of more pain, more happiness, utility, right? A rule utilitarian will say we should still follow the rule that states we do not torture terrorists, because the first time we break a rule, what happens is that we break a rule for the first time under very exceptional circumstances. Okay? So if there is a rule and what?
That sounds a lot like deontology.
Not exactly. A deontologist would like just never break. A deontologist would follow rules like independent of their cause. They would follow rules because they believe that these rules are like sanctioned by God, or these rules are derived from conscience, duty, ethics, depending on what sort of deontologist you are. But a utilitarian would create rules with the specific intention of like good consequences in the long run. But listen to the argument of precedences first. So the rule utilitarian argument is that the first time we break a rule, what happens is we break the rule under exceptional circumstances. But having broken this rule once, there is a precedence for the rule being broken. And this means that the second time the rule is broken, we will do it we will hold the rule to a less stringent burden of proof. So the first time we torture the terrorist, we'll do it because we're really scared. The second time we torture the terrorist, we'll do it because like we've done it before. It's not that important that we torture the terrorist, but like we've done it before. And then the third time we torture the terrorists, we'll do it really. And then after that, we'll just devolve into a state where we are torturing people left and right.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so the rule utilitarian argument basically states that if we do not follow rules, we will devolve into anarchy. And therefore, following rules brings about more utility in the long run. Hence, yeah. Now, again, as with the contention between utilitarianism and deontology, right, it is important to know that despite the fact that the schools of utilitarianism are distinct and often contradictory, you can present two arguments from two different schools of utilitarianism in the same side of a thesis, in the same thesis or in the same antithesis. You know why, right? Like because as I've said before, with regard to Ronald's religion on politics essay yesterday, we first made the principal argument that states have a duty to remain secular. This duty is purely independent of consequences. Next, we made the argument that states being secular leads to better consequences. Do you realize that I'm actually running
principle,
a
one
ontological
consequence.
argument? Yeah, I'm running one principal argument, one practical argument in the exact same side of the debate. And this is okay, because what this shows is it just shows that two people who have like two different worldviews both agree on this thing. Yeah. So in the exact same way, you can make a act utilitarian argument as well as a rule utilitarian argument in the exact same side of the thesis. And these are the sorts of arguments that become very rich and like they are like very pleasant, because like the argument demonstrates that your position is so strong that mortal enemies that have like deep contentions with each other would agree with your position.
Wait, what's your thing about the two types of utilitarians?
What? There aren't two types of utilitarians. There are
Fucking
5,
lost.
and I just covered 2.
Oh my
Oh,
god,
those
this
two.
moron.
I
Yeah,
wasn't sure. I was
active
thinking
Fuck.
my instant noodles.
Oh,
Oh,
lost.
okay. Well, it's all on stream, so you can go watch it later. Act utilitarians believe that like you should commit the action that maximizes utility at that particular point in time.
At that point of time.
Yeah,
Mm.
rule utilitarians believe that you should maximize its utility. The arguments of rule utilitarians, particularly the argument on precedences, is a very, very strong argument. It's very intricate, it's very rich. It's one of those arguments that are very painful to derive. Like if you've never heard the argument before.
So wait, can we just run through that again? So basically, the fact that if
Okay, there are two arguments. There are 2 arguments. Do both of them. Do the first one first. The first one's easier.
This is the one that you mentioned already. The one that if we do not follow rules, then we will devolve into anarchy.
That's the second one. The first one is basically, if we follow rules, then every single action may have more pain than pleasure, like in the long run. But like as long as the first argument for rule utilitarianism is basically the shallower argument. That is, we should care about long run utility and not just immediate utility.
Okay.
And the second argument, the precedence one, is the whole devolve into anarchy thing. So I want you to explain the devolve into anarchy argument, like very, very simple. Go through every single step.
Okay, so wait, hold on. Is it the one where like it like because after we make an exception to the rule, then there's this precedence. So therefore, the next time we encounter a similar problem, it will be more willing and
The
more
exact
easily
phrase is
break the
important.
rule.
The exact phrase is more important. We hold the rule to a less stringent burden of proof before breaking.
Less stringent burden of proof before breaking.
Yes.
So therefore, this continues until eventually, we all descend to anarchy. What do you want to say?
Yes. Because like the first time we break the rule, we'll do it under like really, really extenuating circumstances. The second time we'll break the rule, there's the precedence of having broken the rule before, so we won't be as cautious. The third time we'll break the rule, we'll do it quite willingly, and then like subsequently we'll just be breaking the rule like as and when we see fit. Because like the precedence snowballs. That's the exact.
Wait, why can't you just explain the stringent on burden of proof in words? So you just say like, oh, we will just be more
you can explain it in
lax,
words,
or will be more like
You can
will be
explain it in
more
words.
likely. Okay.
You definitely can. It's just it's a very rich and layered argument, and it's not easy to express.
Okay.
Like if you actually try writing it out, like try writing 2 sentences, see how troublesome it is. Even I have trouble like writing this sort of thing out. I suspect for you guys it'll be slightly easier, because for me it's always been easier to speak than to write. Whereas for you guys I think it's the opposite. So like having heard me say this, you should probably be able to like write it more easily than I can. So it should be fine. Yeah.
Wait, on act utilitarianism or rule utilitarianism?
Rule.
Rule, right? Obviously.
No, I lost track of that for a bit. Yeah, I'll catch up.
But you know the difference between the two, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So moving on to
one is short
preference.
run, one is long run, lah.
Yeah, it's the long run, short run thing, but the rule utilitarians have a more interesting argument than, and that is, excuse me, yeah, sorry, right, yeah. So rule utilitarians have the more interesting argument over the act utilitarians, and that is the whole thing about precedences, rules, and anarchy. But then again, like the obvious premise there is that anarchy is a bad thing. So if you are an act utilitarian and you want to rebut rule utilitarianism, you basically just you draw contention with that premise. If you can prove that anarchy is a good thing, if you can prove that rules are always and inherently bad, then act utilitarianism wins. The problem is that's a very, very difficult argument to blah.
Wait, then is
So-
there such thing? Is there such thing as like a mix of act and rule? So like so not rules, but an individual should do what is good, that is beneficial in the long run, even though he suffers short run pain.
That's just rule utilitarianism one. Like the individual should follow the
Okay.
rule, yeah, that maximizes
Okay,
pleasure in the long run. Yep. Okay.
Preference?
Most of the time, there aren't any like sitting on the fence bits like you tried to do twice already.
Wait, are you talking to me or Mahing?
You.
Oh, me? Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I'm not Chinese rooming this shit and just memorizing whatever Mahing says.
Why do I have a feeling that's targeted at me?
Why being
Wait, what? No, I'm not. Oh my god, Jenny, I'm sorry. No, no, no,
Casual
no.
VM.
Not intended.
Aggro AF.
Okay, continue. Preference utilitarianism?
Okay. Preference utilitarianism is actually a. Let me just read this. This is strange.
Why you never off? Why did this retard off?
Sorry, I just need to read this thing very quickly.
Okay.
I
Okay,
won't be long.
meanwhile, wait, listen to this.
Try
wait.
and write out the argument on rule utilitarianism, the precedence argument. Try and phrase it in words. Like everyone just type it in your chat box, but don't hit enter. Just type it in your chat box, and then like when I'm back, everyone hit enter at once. See what everyone comes up with. That should be fun.
Under readings
Give
or
me
general?
5
No,
minutes.
No, on the Discord chat.
Yeah, like readings or general?
Look, bro,
What do you
if
think?
click on readings, I literally just hit just links, no messages. Oh, and people already put messages. So.
No. Under readings, there is sex. Sorry, ignore the repeat message. What the fuck?
Okay,
No,
everyone hop on general. I will delete the messages on.
Give me about
It's fine
5
to
minutes.
post messages on. Sorry, what?
Give me about 5 minutes.
Where are you going?
I'm not going anywhere. I'm just in the middle of something.
What did you say?
He's in the middle of something. Okay.
He's tapping
Right,
right now and he needs 5 minutes. Although probably just
That's a lot.
Guys,
but it-
write your paragraphs. Write your fucks.
So, basically justifying. Basically justifying. Okay, never mind. We lost. Oh no.
What? What the fuck are you talking about?
He's overwatching. Hold on. Explain the precedence argument of
Oh, my Spectre
utilitarianism.
is so bad. Holy shit. Yeah, give him
That's
safe name
the-
talk for 6 minutes. He found one Facebook.
Alright,
I
shut
have
the
more
fuck
fun
up,
with him.
dude.
Hey, shut up.
Move to the Overwatch chat if you guys want to play Overwatch, seriously.
Can we say like it gives momentum for the next?
Okay, try it yourself, then once you're
Yeah,
done,
don't
go
say
through
it.
every different-
Okay.
Yeah.
Chew.
Oh. Let's do.
Thank you.
I think this one bad. Probably this one's.
Someone's going.
Okay. Done deal.
Ang and Judy smoke weed every day at typing.
Blah 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 blah. Oh my.
Shut up lah.
Alright, I'm sorry, dude.
Hey, when are we supposed to press enter?
Shut up. Wait.
Wait.
When everybody's done.
It's actually when I'm done reading this, but yeah, I guess.
Oh, okay.
You stand corrected. Wait, how long are these paragraphs supposed to be? Isn't it?
Shh, as long as it takes.
No, as in, I don't know whether.
As long as it takes. If you can do it in one line, you can do it in like 5 lines. 5.
Oh, okay.
Huh. Oh fuck, this is pretty mind blowing. Okay.
Very good. Alright, I waited my team to verify, I guess. You're also terrible fight. I don't know why I freaking ulted there. I mean, at least out before I press E, right? That would make a lot more sense. I don't know what the hell I was doing there.
Oh my god, why is everyone muted, guys?
I'm not.
I'm not.
Okay, yeah, I'm done reading. Hit enter.
Okay.
Right.
I'm less disappointed when you said right.
Ah. Oh my god.
Oh
the
my
echo.
god, I feel embarrassed hitting enter.
Right then. Following rules is mandatory for
Size
prevent
doesn't
consent
matter.
and anarchy. This is because a rule should should a rule be ignored once under an instance of extreme circumstance, this creates precedence for future instance where the rule may be ignored once more. Proponents of ignoring the rule may cite the previous instance where similarly dire circumstances occurred, draw parallels to the current situation leading to bypass the rule a second time. As such, the number of previous instances whereby a rule is ignored snowballs such that precedence is created, the point is ignored virtually all the time, and hence anarchy is obsolete. You're missing the link on the whole burden of proof thing. So like every subsequent time we break the rule, we do it for a considerably less burden of proof than we did the previous time.
Oh, I
Can
see. Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
let's go to Joel's. We should not break rules as the breaking of rules will cause more frequent, easier sacrifice of utility in the long run. The first time a rule is broken, heavy burden of proof lies on those who partially break the rule to justify Yep. However, the second time it is questioned, the fact that it is broken before reduces the burden of proof to justify the rule. As such, time present the rules repeatedly, significance or importance of the situation that triggers the breaking of the rule is diminished to the point that the rule itself becomes obsolete, causing a descent to anarchy. Yep, this is perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Yay, just missing that one
Wow.
part, right? On the border of proof.
Yeah.
Except
Yeah.
that part
Joel's
is the
one
major
is
part.
yeah. That part is like the most important part of the whole thing. Joel's one's perfect. Like very well expressed.
Can we
Wow.
do the part where we justify why NRP brings about more disability?
Uh,
I got
oh my god.
there.
No, you'll never have to write that in a GP. Like honestly, like
Oh.
you'll be
Just
you'll be
So
drawing
very
all the
well
links. Honestly, like you'll be drawing all the links up to the point where you prove that anarchy happens. But beyond that, if you just write like one sentence and anarchy necessitates like this utility, it's not a premise that like a lot of people are going to question. It's a sufficiently irrefutable premise to like stop your argument at.
So
Remember
like
what
my
I said?
yeah, like
Yeah.
until I sufficiently like so that like not that many people will bother arguing.
Yeah, exactly.
So my last
Okay.
sentence, I just change it to like, therefore anarchy is bad, therefore we shouldn't break rules.
Yeah, more or less. But it's okay, like the last bit isn't important now. We wanted to know the explanation of the precedence argument itself. Okay, after making an exception to the rule paves the way for society to provide more exceptions to the law which require the credibility of such rules. Okay, the question at hand is not the credibility of the rules, but rather the burden of proof that we place upon those who want to break the rules, okay? Over time, because the credibility of rules is slightly different. Over time, the rule becomes irrelevant and removed, resulting in the decrease of overall social utility, assuming that perceived utility protected by the rule has not changed. I'm not sure how the last bit is important, the whole perceived utility thing. Yeah, otherwise, this is fine. Just like you could have, instead of using the word credibility, just use the word. Okay, Xavier. Under rule utilitarianism, as rules are stagnant, circumstances can change. There will be times when there are exceptions to the rule and rules will be broken. No, 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 no. Under rule utilitarianism, the rules will never, ever, ever be broken. Like, bruv.
As in,
Xavier.
you have rules, but the rules have to be broken, right? Which is what
No, no,
such
no,
rules
no,
need
no,
to change
no,
in the first
no.
place. Right?
The rule utilitarian argument is that even though there may be instances where it might be tempting to break the rule in this one time, we still shouldn't break the rule.
Oh,
That's the
so
rule
okay, so
utilitarian
I just
argument.
need to remove the first few words.
No, no, no. You need to remove the entirety of the
Alright.
first sentence. Like there will be times when there are exceptions to the rule and rules will be broken. Like no, the rule utilitarian argument is that there must never be an instance where you break the rule, even though it is
Okay,
tempting to break the rule. Okay?
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
After the first exception, the first time the rule is broken, precedence is established, and the next time a similar situation is faced, it will have a less stringent burden of proof, and thus the rule will be broken more easily. This continues until eventually the rule itself loses effect. Thus, over time, it will cause society to descend into anarchy as all rules lose effect and rules effectively apply. Okay, it's a bit too fatalistic. Like, not that like all rules will lose effect, but like this one particular rule that we have in place will basically no longer be followed to any significant
No,
degree. Not that
but just one rule not being followed will not cause society to descend into anarchy. It must be all rules.
depends. No, no, no. It depends on what rule. So like a rule that goes, let's see, a rule that goes, we shall never torture terrorists. Let's say we've broken that rule enough times to the point where the government is some paternalistic fuck, like some Hitler-like state, which is basically torturing people left, right, center. Anyone whom they even slightly suspect to be a terrorist basically gets tortured. Like that probably would lead to anarchy, like because it would lead to the failing of political systems in general eventually, that sort of thing. Although I am not sure if you want to use the word anarchy here. Like when I said anarchy, what I meant was actually like I just wanted to illustrate like the eventual extremely exaggerated outcome of rules losing effect. If you want to actually make an argument that society will devolve into anarchy, as opposed to like if you want to make the argument that society will dissolve into literal anarchy, then you need to like a lot more links. Like you need to prove like how the failure of rules will lead to the failure of more rules, how there's certain chain effects going on, how it leads to the failure of institutions. That's how you create anarchy. Whereas when I said anarchy, I meant it in a more figurative sense. So yeah, just be careful if you want to use exact word. If you want to use the exact word, you have a slightly bigger burden. Okay, let's read pose. The first time a rule is broken, we do it due to an urgent need to do so. However, the second time the rule is broken, hold it to less stringent standards as the precedent has already been set. Therefore, such rules become easier to break as we keep breaking. Yeah, this is fine actually. Last one. A broken rule needs to be justified. The first time a rule is broken, it has to be justified entirely. Subsequent times require less proof, as that it has been broken before can be used as proof as well. This will result in less respect for rules and thus descent into anarchy. Yep, this is fine again. Only the last bit is slightly problematic. The whole descent into anarchy thing. Yeah, but otherwise, I think everyone more or less understands the argument. Great. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to talk about is what was it? What was after act? Okay, preference utilitarianism. Preference utilitarianism is actually just a spin on general types of utilitarianism. It's a more modern take. It's a spin on the general utilitarian argument that like we should act in a way that maximizes and minimizes pain. So the preference utilitarianism is basically a slight modification, and the modification states that we should act in a way that fulfills, or rather that satisfies everyone's preferences.
So
So
it's basically what the that article you sent us is about, correct?
I
Not
probably
about
did send you one article.
Christian utilitarianism. Sorry.
Was it? Like, I don't know. If that's what it was about, then I forget what the article.
Lol. Okay.
So yeah, but yes, basically preference utilitarianism is basically just general utilitarianism. It can take the form of act or, and it's basically a modification. It states that like what is pleasurable, or rather, it acknowledges that what is pleasurable to one person might be pleasurable to another person. It acknowledges that there is no societal like gauge for what is happiness and what is pleasure and what is pain. So preference utilitarianism basically acknowledges that different people have different like standards and different judgments for what they consider pleasurable and what they consider painful. Therefore, instead of trying to maximize societal pleasure and societal pain, we shouldn't do that because that doesn't exist. Instead, what we should do is try to fulfill the preferences of as many people. That's preference utilitarianism. More to the point, that is the specific kind of utilitarianism that I myself believe in. And you realize that like a lot of my even day-to-day language that are very much influenced by this. So like when I ask people, do you have preferences? That's actually what I mean. Like being the preference utilitarian that I want to fulfill as many preferences as I can for everyone. Yeah. So does everyone understand preference utilitarianism? It's pretty straightforward.
So, just self-interest.
I need to go that direction.
Okay, preference utilitarianism acknowledges that. Okay, maybe it's best if I first explain classical utilitarianism. So, classical utilitarianism, as J.S. Mill, that wanker, came up with, was basically the idea that we should act in a way that optimizes social pleasure and pain. Okay? Like, we should undertake the actions that maximize pleasure and pain for everyone.
Maximizes pleasure and pain.
Sorry, no, maximizes pleasure, minimizes pain. Maximizes utility, yeah. Maximizes pleasure, minimizes pain for everyone. Okay?
Okay.
You get that, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah.
straightforward. Now, the thing is, preference utilitarianism is basically a modern spin on the classical utilitarian theory, and it basically states that there is no such thing as a societal gauge for pleasure and pain, because what is pleasurable to one person can be painful to another, what is painful to one person can be pleasurable to another. Different things bring different degrees of pain to people, different things bring different degrees of pleasure to people. So, instead of acting in a way that attempts to optimize social pleasure and pain, we shouldn't do that because such a thing doesn't exist. Instead, what we should do is we should act in a way to fulfill the preferences of as many people as possible.
Oh, okay. So it's basically like as long as more people, like 51% of the population, prefer this over the other 49%, then we should pursue this course of action.
Yeah, but that's assuming like there is a thing as societal pleasure, like societal pain. Like if it's just two different courses of action and then you can very cleanly map who prefers this, who prefers that, then you just pick the majority. That's just classical utilitarianism. There's no conflict there. Like
So then what
preference
is...
utilitarianism basically comes into play when there are a whole
When you have
when there's a whole
masochists.
range of when you've got a whole range of things that might cause different degrees of pleasure and pain, when you've got a whole range of things, some of them cause pleasure, some of them cause pain. Preference utilitarians would argue that we should act in a way that maximizes the preferences of as many people as possible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's not very, very different from classical utilitarianism. It's just that a classical utilitarian would say something along the lines of a classical utilitarian would say that every rich person should give up like 70% of their wealth and donate it to all the poor people in the world, because that would just maximize social pleasure and social. Whereas a preference utilitarianism wouldn't make such an argument because they would recognize that like pleasure and pain aren't like absolute things that exist like uniformly across everyone. And what we should instead do is we should create a society that enables us to maximize the preferences for the rich people as well as those for the poor people. Okay? So that's where they differ in terms of like the practical policies that would result if we went through with this ethical course of action. Okay. Great. So that's preference utilitarianism. There's another interesting spin on preference utilitarianism that I think is well worth knowing. And this is another complicated, and I want you guys to write a paragraph as well. And after that, we'll call it a night and we'll do the rest of utilitarian schools tomorrow. Okay? So the last spin on preference utilitarianism is that we should adopt preferences that maximize utility.
Oh, so it's like the inverse of the previous.
No. It's not an inverse of the previous. It's a completely independent thing. We should adopt preferences that maximize utility. This is a very, very intelligent, because one of the easiest ways to rebut classical utilitarianism, classical act utilitarianism, that is, one of the easiest ways to rebut it is the gang rape thought experiment. Like in a gang rape, like a utilitarian would say that like there is more pleasure than pain because of like the sheer number of people as opposed to the victim who is outweighed, right?
Yeah. I see.
So yeah, so preference utilitarianism has basically this very clever spin on that, which rebuts that thought experiment by saying, no, a gang rape is still morally evil because you have a moral obligation to adopt preferences that will enable the maximization of pleasure. So if you have a preference for deriving pleasure by raping someone, you are committing a moral evil.
Okay.
What you instead should have done is you should have adopted a preference for deriving pleasure from something that wouldn't have caused pain to the victim. If you had derived pleasure from something else, then 11 people in the 10 gang rapists, 1 victim experiment, 11 people would have had their pleasure maximized. Whereas if you did like choose to have the preference for being a rapist, then the pleasure to pain scale is 10 to 1, whereas it could have been 11 to 0.
Oh, so you think that like the maximum amount of utility that could be derived?
You have to adopt preferences that maximize utility.
I see.
Very clever, isn't it?
So it's saying that everybody should be utilitarian.
Well, no, as in,
Like,
yes, all utilitarians would say that everybody should be utilitarian, right? The same way all deontologists would say that everyone should be a deontologist.
yeah, but
There's no
like,
ethical school like that says that some people should not follow my ethical school that is correct. Like nobody would say that. But preference utilitarianism basically states that everyone should preferences that minimize pain and maximize pleasure to the best of their ability. Yeah. So this is one of the very, very interesting twists on utilitarianism. It's one of the reasons why I found that utilitarianism as a school of ethics is very, very resilient. And like there are very few thought experiments that can actually take utilitarianism down. Do you guys want to know some of the common rebuttals to utilitarianism?
Of course we do.
It's a bit too philo. I don't think any of this will ever be read. But like it's very interesting. Like well worth knowing. So there are 3 common thought experiments that are used to rebut utilitarianism. One of them is the gang rape one, or any similar scenario. The preference utilitarianism twist basically rebuts that. There are 2 others which are slightly more interesting, and these 2 other thought experiments basically force utilitarians to make tough choices, and like there's really no way to squirrel out of them. Because the preference utilitarianism thing is actually quite a squirrel if you think about it. The other 2, there's really no way to squirrel out of them. I don't know if you've heard of these thought experiments before, you might have. The first is the experiment of the child in Ormelas. Have you guys heard of that?
Oh, what?
What?
The child in Ormelas. Okay,
Is it
so
it's the one where the child's locked up in a dungeon and the future rulers, possible rulers of the country are taken to see the child.
that's the story, but the thought experiment is this. You have a city named Ormela, and in this city there is absolutely nobody in this city experiences any form of pain. So everyone in this city is able to maximize their preferences. Everyone in this city is basically able to lead a happy life. But the problem is, there is a child who is trapped in a dungeon, and this child is being tortured and raped like every single moment of his existence. And he's being exposed to tremendous amount of pain. And for as long as this child is kept in this dungeon and like continuously exposed to this much pain, the people in the city of Amlas will not experience any suffering.
Oh, okay.
So, like the thought experiment is like, would you keep this child in suffering and pain?
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
So that's one. The other thought experiment for
it's the
rebutting utilitarianism.
that's like a Jesus argument.
It's a what argument?
Jesus argument.
How's it a Jesus argument?
Wait,
Like
how
one
is the
person
argument different from the
burying
gang rape one?
else.
Yes.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, except like, I don't know. I mean, there's still plenty of suffering in the world, so Jesus kind of failed.
Remember, kids, if you don't sin, Jesus died for nothing.
Okay, so the other thought experiment is the utility monster. I quite like this one actually. Okay, you all know that utility has diminished returns, right? Like you
yeah.
can't keep you can't just throw utility at a person. Like eventually you'll have to pass on some of the utility. Because like if you spend resources giving one person utility, like the point at which utility starts to diminish will make it such that you will get more utility by throwing the utility by throwing the resources on someone else. You know the standard stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So the utility monster thought experiment is basically imagine we have a monster who experiences no diminishing marginal returns on utility. So every time this monster like kills and eats a human being, monster gets some utility. And like the amount of utility that this monster gets from killing and eating people is like infinite and there are no diminishing returns. By utilitarian logic, this utility monster should be allowed to kill every single person in the world. Yeah, there you go. So the contention there is like, would you let the utility monster exist?
Also, basically, it's like sort
Yeah.
of a
So
fairness
these are the two
argument,
common thought experiments that rebut utilitarianism.
That second one is quite easy to follow, I think.
I mean, like, to be
No,
fair, like,
you can make the argument that like this
The
utility
long
monster
run.
does not exist in the real world.
No. Like even like assuming it exists, right? In the long run, eventually it will kill all the people. And then one, there'll be no more people in the world, so it won't be able to survive. And two, there won't be any other people left to derive other forms of utility. So like in the end there'll be no utility in the world.
But what if you
Yeah, but what if you
No,
really get all the
reading-
like assume like there's an infinite supply of suffering that can happen, and every time the utility monster creates some suffering, it gets pleasure for itself. And like the amount of suffering that it transforms is always marginally less than the amount of utility that it derives. So like basically just assume that humans can keep reproducing as normal, but like every night the utility monster eats one person. Would you allow the utility monster to exist?
far as he's confined to Detroit, yes.
So yeah.
Wait, so but doesn't the utility monster eating a person mean that the utility of other people who like are affected by his or her death?
Yeah. The utility monster assumes.
The
The thought experiment assumes that the amount of utility that the monster gets from eating one person is always marginally more than the amount of suffering that is caused by the death for like everyone in the world. Yeah.
I mean, well, the
Yeah. So these are the only two thought experiments that can hope to challenge utilitarianism. The reason why utilitarianism is so resilient as a school of ethics is because to the first experiment, the child anomalous, the answer is pretty simple to me. Like, yes, we should keep the child locked up in the ways, because like for all the suffering that this one child does, there's the exact same amount of suffering that would happen to a million other similarly arbitrary children. But we are preventing that. So if you just do a very, very simple comparison, like, yes, this is totally worth it. And with regard to the utility monster, like, it's just too outlandish and no such. Therefore, the thought experiment does work, but until such point as this becomes any more than a thought experiment, utilitarianism as a system is still perfectly valid. So these are the only two thought experiments that can challenge utilitarianism, and both of them sort of fizzle out as rebuttals.
I'm pretty sure that more.
Hence, this school of ethics being the strongest that exists.
I'm pretty sure that more.
child.
Or
Wait,
no, it's
why
actually
can't you just kill the
but-
child?
No, the point of the
Because that
child.
goes against
No.
the
The point of the child is that you have to keep him in suffering, so that everyone
Oh.
else can be free of suffering. Yeah.
Obviously.
How is it even possible though?
It's a thought experiment.
It's a thought
Thought
Experiment
experiment.
for a reason, bro.
Lol.
None.
It's a make the child Jesus and everybody doesn't have suffering argument.
So
That's
you
not
think
very
you
good.
no wait, what was the line in the pillow man? So you still want to be like Jesus?
Oh.
You guys
my
remember
God,
that?
I remember that one. Oh, the
Holy
Pillar Man
shit,
sets off
man.
a fire.
Hey guys, let's go watch Pillow Man again sometime. Like whenever it
Oh,
shows.
that's
Pillar is fun.
I fucking loved it. Like holy shit.
Really good, man.
Pillar is
Fucking
good,
loved
man.
it. I loved it to bits.
Wait.
I was reading the script of it just a couple of months ago. Fun times.
Oh.
Wait, what was that other play where like
October.
Which other
wait,
play?
no, I believe we went to see another play where like there was
Sec 2, right?
I don't know, there was this one dude and then his little brother and like he was a novelist, I think.
Yeah, that's the Pillow Man.
Yeah,
bro.
that's the Pillow Man.
There's another one.
Oh, is it the one where like he's telling stories to his brother or something?
That's
The Pillow Man
that
does
is the
have.
Pillow Man.
The Pillow Man
what's
does
the
have
second
him
one?
telling stories
Yeah,
to
That
his
is the
brother.
Pillow Man.
It was the Pillow Man. It was the Pillow Man. Like Couturian. That's the name of the guy. And then the stories
yes,
are
yes.
the little Apple Man, and then the three given
Apple
crossroads.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Pillow Man.
Oh, that was the Pillar Man?
That was the
that
Pillow
one?
Man.
The one
Yeah,
with,
that was the one, bro.
with all the dead people.
Yeah, the one with all the dead people.
Oh,
Not all the
the
dead,
autistic
no,
brother.
not all the dead kids, like the autistic brother.
Yeah, the autistic
Yeah,
brother.
yeah,
Yes,
there are a lot
you are
of-
actually
lot of
describing the
autistic-
Pillow Man.
Hang on.
Right.
Oh.
Like Couturian's brother, Michael Couturian, was in fact the autistic brother in question.
Oh, wait.
Wait, how did the Pillar Man come into this story?
Oh, cause the Pillow Man was one of the stories that Couturian wrote.
Oh,
He considered the Pillow Man to be,
to be a what?
but then like he changed the ending of it or something. Like I forget the exact details, but yeah, it was absolutely gorgeous.
Oh,
Love
in
that
the end,
play.
the asshole policeman wasn't that much of an asshole.
Yeah.
That's
In
the story.
the end, the asshole policeman.
He realized that.
No, but do you remember that final scene? Like he was gonna count to 10.
Yeah,
And then like he shot the guy on 4.
No, he
Oh, yeah.
he shot the guy on like 7.5
Yeah,
seconds.
7.5. Yeah, sorry. 7.5.
Nine.
Bang.
What'd you do that for? Ah, that part was funny.
Dude, the whole play was funny. It's meant to be black comedy.
No niggas being beaten up on 10 would be black. There's 0 of them. Alright, are we done here?
Also,
Alright. Good night, lads. I need to return this iPad now.
Alright.
Bye bye.
bye.
We'll continue tomorrow, right?
I'll keep the string on for a little longer. Just
Yeah, dude. This shit happens every day.
Alright, good night.
Am I not feeding? Alright, I guess I actually stop feeding. Just wait a while. Alright, we're gonna assume terrible impression.
Oh yeah, guys. Before the rest of you leave, important question. Are y'all still around?
Yeah.
Yeah. I am.
Yeah. How many of you know when my birthday is? Know when my birthday is, right?
I'm not sure
Yeah.
actually.
Okay.
I know someone remember.
Yeah, it's
Oh
if
my
anyone asks you when my birthday is, like please don't, like not even the month.
Why?
Why?
Not even a what?
It's a meme. It's a meme that I'm trying to run.
Not even
like-
what?
What the fuck?
Oh.
Not even the month of my birthday. Nobody knows when my birthday is in school, and like I've never told anyone. So I want to see if like I can keep it a secret until graduation.
Oh. That's cool. Cool stuff.
Especially the debaters, because they're the ones who want to find out.
tell them it's in January or something?
Sorry, what?
Should I tell them it's in January or just tell them I have no
No,
idea?
no, like don't tell them anything.
Okay.
Nothing. Because I enjoy it so much.
What time do I have to be in school tomorrow? Oh fuck.
Never.
No, dude, there's the econs mock paper tomorrow. Wait,
Oh,
tomorrow
yeah,
is the case
that's
study, right?
not sure actually.